you go for the 11th. So
Great. Hello, Dorothy. Where are you?
I am in Minneapolis. I'm technically in St. Louis Park, which is right next to Minneapolis. And I have been a solo for almost 2 years. It is great. I love the flexibility. I have been also a full-time mom for a very long time. So I'm sort of part-time solo, but hoping to grow and get more clients. Yeah, I love it.
Great.
I have a nonprofit background, and right now my client is an executive coaching company and so I do a resume editing and like networking document editing for them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Celia's in the car, so she's not celebrating happy hour yet, but say hello, Celia.
Well, hello. I made it home. So let's see. Hello. Hi there. So I have been in the corporate world for all of my career, and I'm looking at retiring probably in the next year or so. And I'm not quite sure. I want to just, sit in my rocking chair. So just considering other possibilities as I move into that next chapter.
Awesome. That's great. And Margaret Ann.
Good afternoon. I am in St. Paul, and most of my career was in corporate communications. But in mid 2000s, about 2010, I guess, I was laid off as we went into the Great Recession. And I decided I was done with that, being the senior person and being too expensive for the corporation. So it was immediately where they went. And I set up my small consultancy. I worked a lot with other friends of mine locally doing subcontract work. And in the last couple of years, I have decided it's time to just move back a little bit. And I still do things that friends need done. And if they need someone to come in and round out their team, happy to do that. But I am now going to be devoting the next year to the College of Fellows. So also good work.
Absolutely. Well, great. Well, I'm gonna pop into the presentation. I now have the power. I feel so powerful, and go figure. So let's pull this up, and let's do. Great. Has everybody got it? So we're having indie happy hour today. If you have a beverage of choice, great. If you choose not to, great. If you're in the car, don't. But the idea today is just to have a really relaxed chance to chat. I'm going to share some information with you about what's going on in the indie world right now, and also just have some good feedback and chat and conversation. So I thought we'd start off with a little bit of a game. So I pulled up this fun little chart with libations of everyone's choice. I thought it might be fun. Let's just quickly let's figure out which one of these drinks might represent us. And I know they're a little tongue-in-cheek, but so what we're going to do just for fun for just a minute is go into your picture there. You click on the 3 buttons up there where it says rename, and you're going to rename yourself as the drink that you think is most like you. You think. I've done mine. I want to know who's going to choose the milk.
Here's a hint. It's not the guy from Wisconsin.
Oh, Bellini. Okay.
Or the girl from Wisconsin.
Sangria. Oh, good one. How did we? Is everybody locked in their answers?
I'm sorry, Celia, can you repeat the instructions, how to rename?
So if you go on your profile picture and when you put your cursor over it, you're going to see the little blue box of 3 dots. And down in there, it'll give you the option to rename, and you can change your name to the name of your drink. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Go back, stop share.
And please remind us to change our names back, so on tomorrow's sessions, I don't show up like this.
Sangria.
There's a checkbox to remember your name for future meetings. I made sure to uncheck that. Although I guess margarita sounds like a name, so.
Mai Tai, I like it. Bellini, Margaret Ann's still choosing.
I think I misspelled.
Ah, Bellini. Okay, so we've got a plurality. So it's
Let me
all
change it to something else.
okay. Well, you know what? It's all kind of
that.
fun and cheek, but I got news for you. There's no secret recipe to being a successful indie. And the great thing is getting a bunch of indies in a room is like going to a convention of lawyers. You can have 5,000 lawyers in the room, and I guarantee you no 2 are going to practice exactly the same flavor of law. And the same thing kind of goes for us as indies. Every one of us has a very, probably has a little bit different background, a little bit different area of focus, a little bit different area where we have strengths. And so the magic piece of this is that, when you look around this group or you look around any room that we're in, we have that there's no competition there. There's no competition. And that's one of the things that's really guided me in my 20-year time as an indie, is the fact that, really we're there to help each other and support each other, because we're never going to be head up against each other. It'll never happen. And so there's no reason to worry about that, and that's really been the philosophy of, trying to help everyone out. So just think about that. I love to see, just see how people sort of think how they would translate into a, I've done this with animals. We've done this with all sorts of different things. It's really revealing sometimes, isn't it? So let's pop back to the presentation. And okay, so here we are. And one of the biggest advantages, I think, to going out on your own as an indie is that statistically, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but statistically, every kind of force that is at play in the traditional labor market almost doesn't hold true when it comes to independent practitioners and consultants. For instance, we've got a bunch of different whiskeys here. And how do you judge a whiskey? Do we have any whiskey drinkers in the group?
I enjoy a pop a little now and then.
So is it fair to say that a 50-year whiskey is probably better than a 2-year whiskey?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Well, if anybody during this whole time of pandemic and stuff has gone and looked at like job listings, I mean, I'll fess up, I have from time to time. You're just kind of curious to see what's out there. Am I doing the right thing? And it seems like the magic number is everybody wants 8 years of experience. Now, I'm guessing that probably everybody on the call has more than 8 years of experience, right? Yeah, so we're kind of in a pickle. But when it comes to being a consultant, boy, they sure do like to hire people with lots of experience, don't they? So this is one area where, keeping on our happy hour theme, that your years of experience, your all the jobs and the projects and the work that you've done over the years is actually something that really adds value to do. Whereas in the traditional labor market, chances are if you were to leave a job today, they'd probably find somebody with 10 or 20 years less experience than you might have. And the sad thing is that they'd probably have to pay just about the same too, which is pretty awful. But we're gonna take a look at some of these things, how they relate to independent practitioners. And the statistics come from a survey that we started about 6 or 7 years ago that we take of independent practitioners. Many are members of the Independent Practitioners Alliance. We also pull from members of Solo PR Pro, which is an independent group of solo practitioners. We also just put it out there in general to PRSA and to other groups to pull the survey. And this is why I kind of acted a little bit funny with the advent of the very strict antitrust language that's being read, because while technically I think our survey has fallen under essentially the safe harbor provisions that are recognized by the Department of Commerce, the way the statement is listed actually is a lot stronger. And so we're working on getting that clarified. But basically you didn't see any of this if you get interrogated down the road, but it is really enlightening as to sort of where things are. So we did our last full survey in August of this year. And it's kind of interesting to see sort of what indies look like among our responses. And if you can look at this, towards the bottom, you can see the vast majority of the respondents have 20 years of PR experience. These are highly experienced and knowledgeable PR practitioners that are part of the survey. Then we look at the number of years as independents, and then look how it almost kind of flips the exact opposite way. Most have been in practice from 5 to 10 years, or 0 to 10 years. And then we look at the age again, and it's really sort of middle of the spectrum. The biggest areas being 45 to 64, but even 35 to 44, we see a lot of respondents in that area. So it shows that while a 45-year-old may not be the first pick for a mid-range job in an agency or in a company, certainly within the consulting world, you're right in the thick of it right there in terms of what you have to offer. And then we looked at the primary business sectors that indies were working in. As you can see, about 43% responded they were in the corporate sector. The next largest was nonprofit, and then followed pretty closely by small business and other agencies. And for those of you that are in major metropolitan areas, I think it's sort of the Twin Cities, Milwaukee, Detroit, a lot of agencies there. Those opportunities are there to find business with other agencies. And then we looked at business activities. So what exactly were people doing in the course of their day? And you can see that for an independent, they're basically spending just over 60% of their time in the practice of public relations, and then other various business tasks, from administrative, new business development, pro bono work, and teaching all make up a much smaller portion of that. And we didn't average this out in a way, but this kind of gives you the sense of the proportions that indies are spending their time. Okay, now okay. So then here's where you get into the sticky stuff that we're not going to admit we saw. But we found for the indies on the survey, look, if you see, the vast majority worked 30 to 50 hours a week. Probably no surprise, probably not much different from folks in the private sector. They averaged 22 and a half hours a week billed towards clients. And one of the biggest, I think, misconceptions that a new consultant often has is that they're going to be billing 40 hours a week. And that's actually very much not the case. Remember that there's that administrative time and business development and time like that. And when I'm advising folks that are kind of going out on their own for the first time, we really shoot for about a 20-hour a week target as a realistic place to start. Just as you begin to build a budget and project what your finances may be for the year. Now this will have absolutely no impact on you whatsoever, but the average reported hourly rate this year was $129 an hour. And this is the first year in a couple of years that the average has actually gone up a couple of dollars. It was very surprising to us the last few years that it inched down a little bit. And my thought on that was primarily that as the survey has grown and we've gotten more responses, it's only natural that the spectrum would increase as well. And so we figured that there were probably, for a couple of years we had more new independents that probably pushed that average down. But should I be called before the Department of Commerce and forced to testify, I will say that this in no way can influence how anyone goes or curb the market, so to speak. And then here are a couple of areas that'll be interesting too, whether you're in consulting right now or moving into it, is just sort of the average billings and then the income for the year. And it's I find it really interesting because billings, of course, is sort of your gross income from your business, and then the income is the net after you've paid off your expenses and your taxes and whatever. And a couple of things that kind of jump out. There is a fairly sizable group that has an income under 40,000 a year, which I know seems probably a bit concerning. But I would say anecdotally that within the folks that participate in the survey, a lot of people are sort of entering the consulting workforce as a means to balance raising a family or caring for elders. And so I think that has a little bit of the influence down on the bottom end of the scale. And then you can see, though, they're still in the numbers over 100,000. I mean, it still adds up to a significant chunk there. Is there any kind of direct causal inference that could be pulled from it? I'm not sure, but it was interesting. And over the course of the pandemic, everything held really steady for our survey participants as well. We didn't find overall that PR consultants were getting hit during the pandemic, and in fact, some did much better, because as companies sort of adjusted their in-office workforce or their permanent workforce, it actually seemed to have played well for indies. Okay, so we got this big bar with all sorts of liquor there, and you're sitting there saying, okay, which one am I going to choose? And I thought this was kind of an interesting metaphor for the most frequent question I get after, sort of what can I charge? Where can I bill? How can I bill? But the next frequent question was, where do I find my clients? Now, some of you are already out there and you're gonna know some of the answers to this, I know, but using our bar metaphor, I'm gonna tell you that your clients are all right there in front of you, believe it or not. And I did an exercise with the indie group in St. Pete and Tampa a while back, and in the course of 30 minutes, we started, and by the end of the session, they all had a list of 25 prospective clients that they could draw from. And they're right in front of your face because you already know them. And so if you're one of those folks that's thinking about going out on your own, and please feel free to chime in for those of you that are already out there. But number one, go to your former employers. I mean, in a perfect world, we all leave in a good relationship with our former employer. And I would say in the last several years, probably 1 out of 3 or 4 end up having that former boss as their first client, because in some respects it's beneficial to the company because they don't have an employee on the books, but they also have an experienced contractor who knows their company and its work, and the demand. So always try with the former employers first. Then second, you want to reach out to everybody you've ever worked with in your whole professional life, because they've probably moved on somewhere, and if they think well of you, they're going to be there and hopefully be happy to let their networks know that you're available and the services that you're making. Number 3, PRSA. You have a whole network within PRSA that are PR leaders in their own companies, their own nonprofits, their own agencies. And I think sometimes it's surprising for many to realize just how many of these PRSA members actually contract out work. So again, a very, very strong network for you. Other agencies, we saw in the survey last year that was a significant piece of work. And in some respects, working under the auspices of an agency is actually, if you're one of the folks that prefers doing the PR work and maybe doesn't love the admin kind of piece of it, that's a real godsend, because I guarantee you they're going to be keeping track of your time for you and handling the billing and all that, because they're essentially passing on your labor to their client. So it's often a good way to pick up, especially starting out, a good way to pick up some solid work. You'll be surprised how many of your friends and family will be able to either pass your name along to their contacts or may have work for you. I was really surprised. One of my first clients was my real estate agent who sold me my house a couple of years before. And he had been thinking for a long time about doing some more proactive marketing. Well, that worked out really well. So I guess he got his commission and I got my piece back, right? Networking. Again, many of us are connected with our chambers of commerce, service clubs such as Rotary, Optimus, Kiwanis. Again, great sources of leads for new business. Your church potentially, or your temple, depending on your faith, can be a great source. And surprisingly, so can the PTA and organizations like that. One of the things that's always great as you go out on your own, or if you have a fledgling business, is really practice that elevator speech and be prepared to sell yourself on a moment's notice, because you never know, someone that you meet might just turn out to be that next great client for you. And of course, friends of friends too. I mean, again, networking, it's that spider web out. So always be open to that. And then I use this one as kind of my last one, as RFPs. And I think there are a couple of folks on this call that have had some experience with that. Yes, that's a source of some clients for you as you start out, especially if you're working in particularly that government space. I have a friend here in Fort Lauderdale who worked as a public information officer for one of the cities in our county. And she turned that into a whole niche for her agency, because she had all the contacts in the various cities of the public information people and knew how to work the contracting situation. And in the course of about 3 years, she went from herself working out of her home to having an office with, I think, 6 employees. And they specialize in that niche. So don't brush it off when I say that you already know your first clients. And I would also say that by taking that step of going out on your own, yet these friends, these family members, these contacts, they want to see you succeed. They want to see you succeed, and it's for it's sort of one of those vicarious living kind of things. If you've ever seen the surveys, like 98% of people say, I want to go out on my own, or start my own business, or be my own boss. I mean, probably 98% of the population at some point says, I want to do it. But you know what, at the end of the day, probably about 97% of them are going to be too cautious to actually do it, because When you go out on your own, you don't have direct deposit every month or every 2 weeks. You have to figure out your own health insurance. There are a lot of things that you have to take care of that as just a regular run-of-the-mill employee, you never have to. There's not that security there. I mean, even though your fortune is 100% in the hands of someone else, it's pretty scary. But I'm going to tell you this. Every one of those people want to see you succeed. They're going to send you work. They're going to share your name with their friends. And you know why? Because if you can do it, they could do it. Even though we know that they're never going to try, probably, if you can do it, they could do it. And they want to see you succeed. So for those of you that are thinking about it, just, now is a great time to start pulling together all those lists of those contacts and folks that you've had dealings with. And when the time is right and you make that leap, don't be shy about letting people know what you do. It's not enough to just put it up on Facebook or LinkedIn. I mean, it's reach out to those people because I promise you, they want to help you out and they're going to help you succeed. And that's going to be a good thing. And, finally, I guess in this context, I just kind of see myself as the bartender. I love sort of putting together, mixing stuff up and talking to the guests, and you all are kind of the guests here. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of close it out for now with my contact info, but we're not going anywhere because I'd love to continue the conversation. But just know that I'm very happy anytime to you meet on Zoom or have a call. And as you get in the process of going about this, I actually put together a boot camp, which is a whole basically 5-hour program to go through everything. We'll probably do that again in the spring. But in the meantime, I'm just really glad to be of a resource. I can send you the full report from our surveys so that you can see some of the other bits of information that are there. And I'm going to stop the share if you caught this, and I'm sure we'll be able to get everybody as well. I want to share in the chat another resource for you, and this is the link for Indie Chat. And what it is it's a twice week kind of an informal group of independents. It's people who have been out for 20 years on their own, people who are thinking about it down the road. We had somebody come into the group that was out on her first day, and it started during the pandemic, just a couple of weeks in the pandemic, because we were concerned that with businesses shutting down, even though consultants have been working from their homes this whole time, I mean, to not have your client contacts kind of at hand or know what's going on with them, we were really concerned that it would cause some angst and stress, and we thought it would be good to just have a place to to be able to connect and cry a little bit or laugh a little bit. And what's happened over 18 months is we've had over 300 people have participated in this thing at one time or another. We've got a few of you in the room here today. It's become, one of our members in Chicago kind of jokingly called it your personal board of directors, because it's not uncommon that folks come into the call and they say, I'm having this problem with this client, or what would you do, or how would you handle this? And like I said at the beginning, I mean, we're not in competition with each other. And sometimes it actually makes you feel a little bit better about how you're doing to be able to help someone else and share your positive experience. So I would encourage all of you, no matter what stage you're at, to consider joining us sometime when you're free. I'm putting the times in the chat room now.
I'll second the value of that group. I've been coming for probably about 6 months now, and to the point where I get cranky if I can't make my Friday afternoon. Like I blocked that time off. And yeah, it's a great group to bounce things off. It's a great group to get support, or like JD said, sometimes you find yourself helping someone else, and that's always a good feeling too.
I think that the other thing is you realize very quickly that we all face the same issues. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're in Peoria or we're in, Pasadena. I mean, we all have the same kind of issues. One time we had an hour-long conversation about how to fire a client. Yes, you can do that. And there are ways to do it that that work well. And we talk about how to collect from clients. That's always a frequent thing that comes up. And marketing comes up a lot. This time of year, we talk a lot about taxes and sort of things that we can prepare going into the end of the year to set ourselves up in a good position. This is also a time of year when we sort of talk about planning for next year and looking at sort of where our new client funnel is and what we're doing. I love the rosé. We talked, I think, was it last week that we talked about, whether we give gifts to clients at the holiday time. And so it really is a great place to be. There are people at all points. We've had people that haven't made the leap yet. One of the members of the group, I think she came probably for 6 months before she actually made the jump. And I'm pretty confident that it really helped give her some confidence about it too. So I've talked at you all a lot. And so I'd love to kind of hear what might be on your all's minds. And we've got some great pros in the room right now. If there's anything that's sort of stumbling you up, I mean, throw it at us. Let's see what we can do.
I guess I'll also second those indie chats. I find them really reassuring in a sense of, as somebody who's newer to being independent and then also being a little on the younger end of the independent people, it's reassuring to hear that people who have so much more experience than I do, especially in the independent field, also have some of the issues I'm going through. So it's not just that I can't do it or that I don't know. It's just that that's part of what being an independent is. And then getting to hear everyone kind of bouncing off each other. It took me a few calls before I even spoke, but just listening to the conversation was really helpful.
And the funny thing is, I think, we'll have anywhere from 16 to 25 in any given day. And some of us maybe knew each other a little bit, but after this time, I mean, it's amazing, what great relationships we developed. And I know that across the group, there's been a lot of sort of offline, friendship making and talking. I know that we've had some folks actually become business partners and share projects as a result of that. Because if you think of it this way, in the past you're an independent consultant and maybe you sort of focused in your community, but all of a sudden 100 other practitioners in all corners of the community. Well, you can go after some bigger projects because you've got someone in Portland and you've got someone in Syracuse and someone in Atlanta and someone in Dallas, that could handle those pieces of the project. And so it's really I think it's great support in that aspect. If you do sort of envision growing and getting bigger, I mean, you've got all the resources right there in the room.
The other thing is, you meet spouses. I went down to Orlando last month with my wife because our son lives in Orlando and I haven't seen him since Christmas 2 years ago. And we had already purchased our airline tickets to go to Icon. And then it got, pushed over to being virtual. We had an unofficial independent practitioners meeting. And my wife now counts JW and several other people around the table as friends. And she even talks about it. And when I said, yeah, I'm hosting one of the sections today, and I'm introducing JW. She said, "Oh, JW, what a great guy! He was so much fun." It actually is a real community, and that's the cool thing about PRSA, but especially this section. So many times where I've shot an email or picked up the phone and called somebody. From those indie chat calls and other things, it's much stronger bonds and wow, you learn so much from people.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I have to say, in all the years I've been a PRSA member, and it's a lot of years, I have never called someone to ask a question where they've said, I'm not going to help you, or not called back. What will happen is, I'm really busy right now and I can't talk to you, but I will call you back. And they do. So these kinds of smaller groups where you make those personal relationships, I think make a huge difference in your practice and your career. It can get lonely working independently.
Yeah.
So it's a nice touch base and sounding board.
Can I ask, the indie chat is part of PRSA, right? Or is it just separate?
You know what, we made it open to anyone that wanted to be a part. And in hindsight, that was a great decision, because I think a lot of people have come in, they said, hey, this is really something worthwhile, and they've joined the section. In fact, our section, the IPA section, I think had the highest, sort of per capita growth of any section over the last year and a half. We have the highest member satisfaction of any of the sections. So it's been really, and the whole thing was kind of this, it was this, well, we don't know what's happening. Let's just do this. Let's connect. And what turned out was what's become a very vibrant program. And something that certainly I think is going to outlast the pandemic, for some time. It's just been really, really fantastic. But no, you don't have to be a member of the section, and we'd love to welcome you in as a member of the section, but it's not a requirement. And basically we just kind of post the login information, and folks come in, and it's funny too, because we can tell when people get busy, because then they disappear for a while. And that's the best excuse for not making indie chat, because if you're busy, you're making money. And that makes us happier than anything. If somebody drops off, we're happy. We're not sad. Because there are always going to be some folks that, there are always some that are maybe struggling from time to time and whatever, and we're there to support them. But at the end of the day, our hope is that you've got to bill that hour. It's a lot of fun.
I gotta say, especially last spring and early summer, it helped me keep my sanity, because I lost, client after client. It was soul crushing. And to have other indies around to pick you up and say, keep doing what you're doing, and offering support, that was huge. And it can't be overstated, because like Margaret Ann said, it can be isolating. I mean, you met my vice president of marketing, Zena the Wonder Dog. She doesn't talk much, so
That's an advantage.
usually, but it's nice to connect with others. And lately I haven't been on the calls on Friday or Tuesday, so I'm hopeful that I can be on tomorrow's call, although I'm hosting the midday program, so I won't be off air until like 1:30 or 1:45, and then dash back home. But look forward to seeing everybody.
And if you think about it, our worlds, whether it's professionally or in our personal lives, it's all about relationships. And that's how we get most of our work done, is through relationships. It's a perfect opportunity to be around people and to talk to people and develop those new connections.
Celia in Nebraska. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing, because I think you said, did you say that you were thinking about sort of heading into the indie world at some point, maybe?
Yeah, I am considering it. I've done a little bit of consulting through my career, not a whole lot, because my full-time jobs have kept me pretty busy, but I'm currently vice president of marketing and communications at the Children's Hospital here in Omaha. And just ready to take a step back, but not completely get out of the business. So just looking at some options. So this is really helpful.
Yeah, there are several people in the group that come from the very same background. So sometime you let me know sometime if you'd like to join us on Indie Chat, and I'll sort of put the word out and invite our healthcare folks to maybe make a point to come in, just so you can get a chance to meet with some folks that have been on a similar journey at some stage in their careers.
Oh, sounds awesome. Thank you.
Great. And good to meet you too, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. This is good information. Also a little frightening to listen to a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'll make a transition. It may not happen. I don't know. I would like to. I think it'd be really, I think I need to find something that brings me more life, right? And so I guess maybe I have a question. Part of my plan, my strategy in my brain that I'm working out is to do a long transition where for, I don't know, maybe a year or longer, I continue many of my functions at the mall on a semi-part-time basis and try to do other stuff on the side. Is that an experience anyone has had before? I mean, to me, it feels safer. I don't know if they'll go for it. I think they will when the time comes and I have that conversation with them. And then my hope is after I leave completely that I retain them as a client as well. Again, I have a lot of institutional knowledge and experience here, so I think there's real benefits to the company for that. But has anyone else had a similar experience?
That's not been my experience, but I've been in kind of a similar position where I'm kind of, you're kind of I mean, the biggest challenge I think is just the confusion. Well, is he at the mall or is he doing consulting? I think that's the biggest challenge you kind of raise. And so it might be one of those things where if you're transitioning slowly, you might very, very strategically target a couple of projects to take on that you can kind of take on simultaneously, and work your way there rather than my experience has been, and I was lucky, I was in the Marine Corps. And if you've been in the military, I mean, basically you run from a contract to a contract. So my contract ended in June. My last day was in early March. And everybody knew I was going. So I was able to put the word out basically in the fall before I left and start that marketing process. And it didn't really create any issues, on the military side. And amazingly, the projects all kind of happened like the day I started on my own, because it was all people that I knew from previous relationships and whatnot. And so that was kind of a safe way in the sense that I had a couple of months of pay and benefits to go from right off the bat, until that ended. And by that time I had enough work. The number one kind of issue for folks going out on their own tends to be the issue of healthcare. And in our survey, what we found is of our indies in the survey, I want to say it's 75 or 80% received their health care through their spouse. So that is kind of a big issue. And if you have a spouse where you can do that, if you don't have that situation, then obviously that's a very specific kind of situation to plan for.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I would think going from, I'm assuming that that's all covered where you are now. So the timing of when you do that may be influenced by when you can transition to your own healthcare if you need to do that.
Yep.
So
I've been thinking about that a lot.
Yeah. That's the big one. And I actually got a call from a person in Naples, Florida, I don't know, last year. Kind of same situation, wanting to go out on her own. And we got talking about it. And we realized that she was the caregiver for her partner. And you know, and basically it just wasn't a feasible step to take right now, where she would have to either go on to the healthcare, into the Obamacare system, the marketplace, or keep her job. And so that was kind of an important factor in that.
Good to know.
You know, I mean, for you, I mean, it would, I don't know how it works, because, you know, honestly, you know, and you know, I'll throw it all out there. I have my healthcare through the VA, because I was in the Marine Corps. So I mean, immediately that took one of the biggest sort of considerations for me off the table. And so I don't consider myself to be really a typical example, because it wasn't a concern.
Yep.
You know, but I mean, if it were one of those things where you had to go for open enrollment, well, that's kind of like right now. So that may affect when you might choose to start the transition. You may wait till halfway into the year and then start transitioning, knowing that by enrollment time, you'll be ready to do that.
Yep.
And
Good.
often you can get Cobra to
Right.
take you through, generally like 6 months, I think, which is what I did, and then just went with a Medicare policy, Medica policy.
Yep.
And UCare in Minnesota also has pretty reasonable rates for their healthcare. And because everything is based on Minnesota people, which tends to be a healthier base than if you go across the United States, because there are places where it's not as healthy.
Yeah, like Nebraska.
I was thinking more
Hey,
like
that's true.
Missouri,
We have
or not
some great
Missouri, I was thinking
restaurants.
Mississippi or Arkansas.
No, Wisconsin.
It's
Another risky place.
Wisconsin.
You have to have a cheese head like hat next to your desk, right?
Oh,
Oh,
no, I'm true to my roots.
yeah.
But if you need one, we could probably find one for you, JW.
Oh, believe me, they have them at the airport.
Sure they do.
Not only the cheese wedge, but even, you know, a cheese ball cap or cowboy hat.
Mm.
Selection,
Yeah, a
Branding.
selection.
fashion statement.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, guys, I've got 7:28. You know, it's been a real pleasure to sit and chat with you. I hope this isn't the last time that I see some of the new faces today. You know, again, you're always welcome on Indie Chat, and reach out individually anytime. I'm always happy to talk through things. And you know, with that, I mean, I guess we passed happy hour, so it's dinner time. Y'all look hungry to me.
There you go. I'm gonna change my name.
Yes, don't forget.
Don't forget that.
Yeah, I had not unchecked the box, so mine would have showed up badly tomorrow. So thank you.
That's what you
Thank
get
you.
for being mysterious
Yeah.
and watching the Weather Channel. Is that
Well,
what that one was?
The only part about that description that fit was I watched the Weather Channel. I am
Well,
not mysterious.
Yeah, here in Minnesota, there's actually something worth watching the Weather Channel with.
Yeah,
You know, Daniel, you know Anna Long, don't you?
She used to work with me. Yes, I work with her all the
That's what I
time.
thought.
I know her
And
very
you know,
well.
she's just going independent, or has gone. So
Snow
you might
globe.
want to just give her a call.
I met with
Yeah,
her. I met with
exactly.
her about it.
Great.
Yeah. And by the way, for the Minnesota folks, it's my employer doesn't know that I'm considering this. So
Right.
not that you would say
Don't
anything,
worry.
but and
It
it could be
happens.
but Anna's a
accidentally often.
great friend of mine. Yep.
Great.
Thank y'all.
Well, thank you very much. This has been great.
Bye, nice meeting
Appreciate
you.
it. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye,
Hope to
have a
see
good
you
evening.
tomorrow. All right.
Yeah, I hope so.